Good evening, friends, family, loved ones. 15 October. Interesting news today. I read some very interesting news. Elon Musk for the crime of suggesting a peace plan. Because, to the regime in Ukraine and its sponsors in the West, that is probably the biggest crime you could commit, is talking about peace. For the crime of committed by Elon Musk of proposing a peace plan, any kind of peace plan, short of Russian extermination. That's the only peace plan the West understands or wants, at least the elites of the West, let me rephrase that. Elon Musk has now been added to the Ukrainian official government kill list. There's a website called Mirotvorets, which it translates to actually peacekeeper. That's what Mirotvorets means. In reality, it's anything but. So this is a hit list that an NGO in Ukraine set up back in about 2014, and the government of Ukraine has accepted and has endorsed and upkeeps. So there's a list of thousands of people. Yours truly, I'm sure I'm on there. Haven't checked in a couple of years. Thousands of people. So we're not talking just Russians. You're not talking just you're not talking just adults. There are children from the Donbass. Any child that was ever interviewed, they'll put them on a list. They'll put their whatever information they can find about these people, including their addresses. There are journalists, lots of journalists. Any journalist basically that says anything about the truth will be put on a hit list. I mean, that's what it is. And there have been people killed off of this list. And they encourage their little thuggets there to go kill people. So now the richest man in America, or I think he's the richest man in America. If he's not, then he's definitely the richest South African man in America, has now been put on the kill list, which he discovered yesterday. Just recently got done. So not only was he told to go screw himself, or relatively go frig off, by the Ukrainians for suggesting peace. But now that he's responded with, especially when he responded with stopping that Starlink internet that he was giving him for free. Not that it was working lately anyway, since we kind of have this, Russia has this technology called Pirosvet, which is a huge laser system in the cities that can do things like fry satellites, amongst other things. Satellites have this nice little thing called a trajectory. They fly in a straight line, so you can calculate pretty quickly on the computer the velocity and the vector that you need to hit at. Huge lasers. There's been a lot of videos out with big bright beams of light coming up from various Russian cities. It's also used for frying the optics in nuclear weapons, nuclear delivery systems, missile warheads. So yeah, because we're primitive barbarians that live with a bottle of vodka and our pet bears out in the woods. That we can build anti-missile laser systems that the West can't even friggin' imagine, and we can take satellites out with these laser systems. Yeah, welcome to primitive Russians with no manufacturing or anything else. Keep telling the stories that let you sleep at night better, at least for the Western elites. So anyways, but this gentleman who is part of the Western elite, who bought into the Ukrainian BS at the beginning of this war, who's finally started to realize reality and made the evil, horrid move, anti-human move, suggesting peace, a possible peace plan, has now been put on the kill list. So, United States government. Oh, I know he's in the shit house as far as Biden's regime is concerned. The Biden little woke Nazis really despise him, so they must be cheering that real Nazis despise him also, which raises his credentials quite a bit, I'd say. Considering the man also holds the keys to the entire U.S. space program, which is all based off of now SpaceX. So yeah, and there was an investigation open on him, conveniently by the FBI. The enforcers of the Biden regime. So the question now becomes, what does America do about it? Well, if America had an actual leadership that gave a damn about Americans, they would probably be upset. I'm sure Biden's cheering, or his handler's cheering. Biden doesn't remember his name. But I'm sure his handlers are cheering because, Musk has gone against the will of the elite, the deep state. They'd probably love to see him as an example, just in case any other billionaire decides to think for himself. But yeah, that's interesting news there. So an American citizen, probably the richest man in America, guy who holds the keys to the American space program. The guy's been funding the internet out of his pocket for the Ukrainian Nazis, and has now realized what they are, has now been put on the kill list by those Ukrainian Nazis. They had his addresses up in the U.S., so, there's plenty of sleepers in the U.S. from the Nazis. I'm sure there's somebody who's silly enough or stupid enough to try their luck. I'm sure Mr. Musk there has adequate security systems. I'm hoping for it because, I'd like to see him continue doing his work and speaking some truth, maybe even fixing Twitter. That anarcho woke Nazi fascist fascism. Fascism is hard to say. Fascism is a form of Marxism, which is a branch of Marxism and is an economic social system. Nazism just took fascism and added a racial component. The Deutsch over über alles, and those close to the Deutsch. So, anyways. But anybody can be a Nazi. All you got to do is replace German with, say, Jewish, like Zelensky, and easily becomes a Nazi. Nazi is an ideology. It's not an ideology based strictly on one racial group. We've got Nazis in Russia. The difference is we prosecute them. They don't serve in the military, at least not openly. And they damn well darned in the government, as opposed to, say, Ukraine and quite a few other governments in Europe these days. Europe and America and the West in general has Ukrainized with incredible speed. Ukraine didn't become a liberal democracy like the West. The Western liberal democracy has evolved into Ukraine at different speeds, but it's getting there very, very quickly. The SBU and the FBI must be trading notes for their tactics. The only difference is the death camps haven't showed up yet. The SBU has quite a few of them. Even 4 or 5 years ago, the UN identified 5 torture camps in Ukraine. The UN identified, the UN identified 5 torture camps in Ukraine. Of course, they weren't allowed in any of them. But one of them was in Mariupol, under the airport. There's survivors who have been talking a lot about what happened to them. People were disappeared for many reasons. Many, many people were disappeared. And the video came out of Ukrainians murdering civilians. There was an American Merc scum who posted how it's his favorite thing. They're going to go clear out these villages. He put a list of certain villages. But all these villages were not clear. They're not trying to clear them out of Russian soldiers. That would be dangerous. These villages happen to already be behind Ukraine's Nazi lines. So when he means clearing the villages, he means murdering civilians. That's what the Merc scum is best for, normally, in most countries, because they're not related to any of these people. They don't consider them their own people. So murdering women and children is pretty cool for them. They get their rocks off. Sick fucks. But the Ukrainians are just as sick. Also, the Ukrainian army is just embedded with Nazism on all levels. I mean, just look at the markings and the things that they wear on their uniforms. The Terra Baron, the little militias, local militias, most of them aren't. Most of those guys thought they were never going to leave. By joining up the Terra Baron, the local militias, they thought they were just going to be sitting there protecting whatever, and they'd get out of the draft. And it turned out they were the first ones sent to be into meat. But the Nazis, the Nazi ideology is there. The Black Sun, the SS, the Wolf Lightning signs. It's all over Ukraine. Never mind the actual swastikas. Have these dumbasses have them tattooed. Personally, I'd execute every one of them that has a tattoo of Nazi swastika. You've condemned yourself. But we have a much more humanitarian government, which I think in this case is unfortunate, because tribunal and execution for anybody with a Nazi insignia on them, which would be about half the Ukrainian POWs. But okay, I don't make the decisions. Vladimir Vladimirovich does. I'm much more cold-hearted on things like that. But anyways, so again, it's very interesting to see that Elon Musk is now on a hit list for Ukraine, all in the name of Western values. That's right, that's Western values these days. Western values and democracy. An unelected dictatorship in the face with the face of Ursula von der Leyen and her ilk up in Brussels, because that's democracy too, having an unelected government that can't be unelected back out. That reads dictatorial powers over every EU statelet. And a guy in the White House, I can't remember his name, has deep state handlers. So yeah, that's the state of Western democracy. Enjoy. And for those of you who don't want to enjoy it, consider immigration while you still can. Because, for all of the MAGA people in America, if you haven't been paying attention to what various government officials have been screaming, from Biden's "you're basically enemies of the state" to some that have just set out and they need to be killed, or disarmed at the very minimum. I watched a very interesting documentary in Israel, and the Israeli schools, they do these Holocaust month or Holocaust lectures for the school kids. In itself, it's nothing big. But what they do is they invite a Holocaust survivor. There's a lot fewer of those left than there used to be. But they invite a Holocaust survivor to talk to the class after the lessons. And in this case, with this documentary, there was a little old lady, and she asked the class at the end, "What did you learn?" And they all, students being students and they're kids. They give her the usual spill. Oh, people, we learned that people should love each other, should be more tolerant, blah, 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 blah. The usual spill. It's like, you learned nothing. What you should have learned is if somebody says they want to kill you, believe them. They may not have the means to do it right now, but they want to kill you. So if people tell you they want to kill you, you've got one of two choices. Either grab a weapon and go fight them, or grab your loved ones and run. Because when they tell you they want to kill you, they want to kill you. So think about that. Peace. God's love.